Okay, now here I have this lady Ayn Rand, and I put her on a list the other day, and it was she was next to the last there, Ayn Rand, 1905, 1982. And I said, none of these philosophers, from Confucius all the way to Simone de Beauvoir, and obviously I just picked out probably among the most famous philosophers throughout history that dealt with the subject in one way or another. Some were physicists, some were philosophers, and they try to figure out, well, what is an object? What do we mean by exist? And they never figured it out. In fact, it's David Hume and Immanuel Kant, the two on the right there at the top, who specifically stated the problem. They could not figure out the difference between object and exist. Okay, and I covered that, a couple statements that they made in their books, their respective books, in which they could not tell the difference between an object and existence. Because a lot of people are thinking that a thing is what we call things in ordinary speech. Things that we see every day, we bump against, we touch. So we have this notion of see, touch, and we say, well, I can touch a table, that's an object. And I can touch a chair, so we have no problem there. The problem comes when you get objects that you cannot see, like air. You say, well, that's not an object. Yeah, but you can touch it. You move your hand and you feel something, and we call that thing air. And so are we going to dismiss it because we can't see it? Is that the criteria we're going to use, see? And then you have, objects such as tribar, or even a square, any two-dimensional object, Superman, two-dimensional figure, right, image. And you can see it, but you can't really touch a square because it doesn't exist, it's not here. And so you're going to dismiss it because you can't touch it. You can see it, but you can't touch it. Air, you can touch it, but you can't see it. Are those the criteria we're going to use? Well, obviously those are not universal criteria, especially the table I'm thinking of, the one that I have in my brain, what I'm imaging and I can see and I can draw for you, right? So that you know what I'm talking about. You can't see or touch the table that I have in my head. Well, is that table the one I'm dreaming of or thinking of? Is that an object? Does the word table refer to an object? Always. Anywhere in the universe. Table on the other side of the universe. Is that an object? Does the word table refer to that which is an object? Yeah, of course, always. Table is always an object. Okay? Why? Because it has shape. That's why it belongs to the list of words that refer to that which has shape. That's why it's an object. So if someone says a rope, oh, you're doing rope, in my case, the rope model, and they say, well, you're doing it with concepts because I can't see, I can't touch the rope, so it's a concept. No, that's not the criteria, or the criterion. Right? No, a rope, anywhere in the universe, anytime you use the word rope, you're referring to an object. Okay? So these people never figured that out. They thought that objects were only those things that exist, and they started confusing object with exist. They got ahead of themselves. Before defining object, they were already at the point where they were saying, well, if it doesn't exist, it's not an object. No, that comes later. We're not there yet. We're not at the word exist yet. We're still fighting. We're still struggling with the word object. We got to define that first. That's the first word you need to define. So yes, I stand by my statement. The word object destroys all religions. Once you define the word object as shape, lots of people have problems because now you got space-time. Well, is space-time an object? Well, what does it look like? What is the shape of space-time? Well, what is the shape of time? Let alone space-time. And no, they put it beyond our reach. They say, well, we cannot imagine space-time because it's four-dimensional, a four-dimensional object. Well, I just want time, that one leg, what does time look like? You're going to bend time, you're going to say you're going to warp time. What does time look like before you warp it? That's what I want you to draw it. I want to see what you have in your mind, okay? Field, is a field an object? Can you bring a field? Magnetic field will do, you know. Can you bring a magnetic field to the conference and put it in the middle of the room and show us a field, and we can look at it from every side? We can see, oh, I see what a field is now. Is the field a standalone object? Can you bring the field without the magnet and put it in the middle of the room? What are you going to put? It's a dependent object, dependent, you know, it's got to be independent. This one's not independent, it's dependent, depends on the magnet. That's one issue. The other one's invisible, untouchable also. So under the C-touch criteria, you still would not be able to qualify a field as a physical object. So all these words that people use as objects, they treat them as objects, are not really objects. They're concepts which people have reified, concretized. You know, they made them into something concrete, and they treat them as physical objects. They start moving them around, they push them, they squash them, they stretch them. That's the problem. Okay?